Like it is, and I know it, but it completely is. Just make sure you do it. Officer, I think is so what is this number? Because otherwise we would literally I think I know what is what you do for I don't need to know. General fund budget is around 300. It's actually 296.18, but I need to it's
Just want to confirm that.
she did
Nothing. He cracks right now. He's also yellow too.
Thanks. Let's go ahead. Everyone ready? Yeah, we'll call to order the October 31st, 2025 meeting of the Nebraska Economic Forecasting Advisory Board. If you're not here for that reason, you're in the wrong room. I think first call of business would be roll call.
Mr. McGinnis,
Present.
Ms. Anderson,
Here.
Mr. Bourne,
Here.
Mr. Henning, Mr. Karp,
Here.
Mr. Keen,
Here.
Mr. Miltenberger,
Here.
Mr. Maiskeier,
here.
Mr. Salim.
Here.
We have a quorum. I'll just mention that Tom Henning is not here today. He's recovering from some minor surgery. Nothing really significant. I think in his many, many years of serving on the board, this is the second time he's not been able to attend. So I think he deserves a pass. In accordance with Section 84-1412 of the Nebraska Revised Statutes, a current copy of the Open Meetings Act is available for review and is located to my right on that stand in this meeting room. Item number 3 would be approval of the minutes of April 25th, 2025. Do we have a motion and second?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call.
Mr. McGinnis,
Yes?
Mr. Miltenberger,
Yes.
Mr. Maiskeier,
Yes.
Mr. Salim,
Yes.
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Bourne,
Yes.
Mr. Karp,
Yes.
Mr. Keen.
Yes.
Motion carries. It's time for the forecast, but first I'd like to welcome back to this meeting room Dave Dearmont, who many years ago I met him when I first joined the NEFAB board, and he gave me and one other board member our first orientation. So Dave, it's great to have you back.
Thank you.
Wafu, I think you're going to start with the presentation.
All right, so I changed layout this presentation from to David Lim, so I start a new slideshow. So I will do a few slides of the U.S. macro overview and then a few slides of how the Nebraska economy evolving and present the forecast after that. So you look at the U.S. macroeconomic, there is some headwind going to at least in the short run into the next couple of quarters and then 2026 as the tariff is on everybody's mind. As business brace for higher cost, that will have impact on employment and GDP, which employment discussed later. But GDP, first quarter 25 is negative. That's just because people shifting to import to avoid the tariff. And then second, bounce back again, import decline because the announcement of the tariff. And then both S&P and Moody expect next couple quarters to decline kind of further to about 1.3% growth in the fourth quarter. Then 25, 26, 27 is going to fluctuate around 2%, 1.7 to 2%, depending on the service. Movie tend to be more pessimistic because they have a higher forecast for inflation, a faster drop in the Federal Reserve fund rate. That all play into why their forecast is getting a little bit pessimistic than S&P. As for employment, employment has cooled significantly compared to previous few years. It's added about 22,000 jobs in August, and there's a report out there, if you take away healthcare sector, pretty much every other sector is on net is losing jobs. So healthcare is picking up the employment for the U.S. economy because it's always that job. Healthcare, we always have job. The other sector tend to be decelerated in their employment job creation. For comparison purposes, so over the last 4 months, from May to August of this year, the U.S. economy had about 107,000 jobs. And for the first 8 months of 2025, we see the average of 75,000 jobs per month. That's compared to like 266,000 in 24 and 255,000 jobs in 24. So it's stopped to decelerating. With respect to unemployment rate for 25, it's go up a little bit, but it's not going crazy. So most services expect the unemployment rate to rise modestly, 4.5, 4.6 in 26, and 27 about 4.5 and 4.7%, depending on the service. So which sort of begs the question, why is the job creation as slow, but the unemployment rate doesn't rise as quickly or as high as some might have thought? Part of that is because you have the current situation, so both the slowdown or the reduction in both the supply and the demand of labor, that keep the unemployment rate from rising. But the labor force kind of, the supply of labor is decreasing, should say decreasing, it's decelerated from previous years. So when you have that happen, then the unemployment rate doesn't rise as fast.
Is the supply decreasing because of the demographics and
I think the
immigration
supply
policy?
of labor decreasing, some of that due to the immigration policy that we have across the country. Some of that plays the labor market. You will get less of a foreign born worker. That will drive down the supply of labor, which kind of keep the unemployment rate from rising up. As for inflation, inflation in the second quarter of 25 is only 1.6% on average. Third quarter and fourth quarter expect to go up to 3.3 and 3.2. Movie have high at 3.7. Then it will stay elevated throughout the forecast horizon. What likely will not get to 2% until 2029. Part of the reason why we haven't seen inflation going up that quickly at the first quarter of 2025 is that the pass-through of tariffs to consumer price has been slower than expected. And somebody has to pay the tariff, right? The tariff is a significant amount. Somebody has to pay that tariff. And one of the reasons I believe that businesses have not raised price is first they have a very their price has increased significantly over the pandemic year, so their margin is quite big. So there's more room for them to basically have a cost increase but not raising the price. Eventually, then we have to pass that on, and we might have see some of that in the third quarter when price go up. And that is expected to slowly pass through the consumer into 26. But the good thing about this is it's not going to be, hopefully it won't be an ongoing inflation problem, but rather a one-time increase in the price, right? Because you have the tariff, you build it in, and then the tariff is assumed to be stay, then the increase in inflation rate in the future will be based on that base. So that is hopefully that's the case. So you can see here, Moody has higher inflation, which is the orange ball here. And with that, they have a much, I shouldn't say much, but they have a lower target rate for the Fed in terms of the Fed fund rate. So they both expect the Fed to lower the rate again in December, but then Moody expect 3 more rate in 26, 3 more cuts in 26, while S&P only do 2. One in June, one sometime later next year. So here's the Nebraska economy. Put the labor market in here. This is the forecast from Moody. So you see the labor force, the total labor force in Nebraska from the pandemic, when we get out of the pandemic, up to 25, 1-3. It's kind of increasing at a steady rate, but then the projection is kind of flat out here, right? From 25, 3, 27, 4. You don't see, at least Moody projection from Nebraska economy, we don't see the labor force increase significantly. And with that, the number of employment kind of gradually increase, but not, it's kind of flat. But it doesn't go negative, but it doesn't show the increase. And unemployment rate kind of peaked out here, about 26, 3, roughly about 3.2%, and that's kind of stay there for the forecast horizon. I put in this slide just to show the manufacturing average earning growth. This is high growth back in the 2021, 2024 period. That's the inflation. That's when we have a demand pool inflation. Right? When you have a demand pool inflation, you tend to have wage go up because businesses want to put out more output. But if you get to out here, when you have a cost push inflation, meaning the input costs of sudden increase, wages doesn't look like it's going to go up. So the projection for wage on at least on manufacturing kind of stay around 2.7, 2.8% growth. And if you go back to the previous slide, that is below inflation. And that will have some impact on sales tax, withholding, all that stuff. Just so the Nebraska total resale, 23. We know 23 can be low because it's coming up from a very high base in 22. But the issue of 24, we only grow 1.8% compared to 23 average low base. So, and then it's expected to grow about 3.3 to 4.5% for the next 3 years. And retail sales include pretty much everything to the final consumer, services, goods, everything that sell to final consumer. Break that down a little bit further. Personal consumption expenditure total. Personal consumption expenditure is basically what driving the economy, right? Driving, and it still is. The economy, even for the U.S. economy, what keep GDP and growth is the resiliency of the consumer sector spending. We still see that we will likely see the growth total, but when you break it out, the services good, you can see the good is kind of growing between that period, after the pandemic of about 23, and then kind of stays. And non-durable goods is actually a lot more flatter than the whole goods sector itself. And that has implication because a lot of this is still subject to sales service. So you see total spending increase, but sales tax decrease. That's because the good is the part where we tax, the non-good is where we pay not to tax. Nebraska net taxable sales. So this is basically a one-to-one relationship with the sales tax collection receipt. You see kind of an increase here from 23 and 24. You see some pickup in early 25. That's reflected on the later forecast too. You see some of the pickup here. However, there's a caveat. A lot of that increase in the first part of 2025 have a lot to do with incentive activities. So you have incentive company paying use tax, things like that. And eventually that will come back out as a refund to the taxpayer. So some of that's in there.
Why would there be more incentives this year than there were the year before?
There's a few big ones out there. That's all I can say.
Valentine lattes or something?
I can't get into specifics of that.
Okay,
That we will get in trouble.
so you know something that we don't know.
On the micro level, but on the macro level is the same thing, right? The macro level, I'm sharing at the macro level. I can't share the micro level data, right?
Okay.
But for the macro, what I'm saying is some of this out here have incentive material that built into the forecast.
Now I'm gonna spend the whole time trying to figure out who's doing what. Okay.
Employment in Nebraska, this is non-farm employment, kind of see a flat here, I don't know why it's increased here. But maybe that's before the revision here. So that is kind of flat out again, so. All right, so that's what I have for the economy. Now the forecast, all right? So this is the fiscal year to date comparison to the forecast back in April plus the bill that was passed during that regular session of 2025. So you get sales use tax, just so you the point that there's some incentive data on here. Actual receipt on net sales use tax, we collected 731 million versus the forecast of 659. That gives you 72 million ahead of projection for sales use tax. For the first 3 months of the fiscal year. Individual tax bill is right on, nothing. The corporation income tax, this is where the forecast becomes difficult. Is the corporate income tax. We collected 160 million versus the forecast of 225 for the first 3 months. That 225 September is very big. September was the estimated payment for corporation. We didn't see the money coming in. So we short by 65 million up to the first 3 months. And, if I have to try to come up with an explanation for why corporate profit would show up, probably some of that tariff kick in, they did increase the price, profit margin get reduced, therefore less estimated payment for September. And not only Nebraska see this, I believe some neighboring states also see the significant drop in corporate profit, corporate income tax receipt for September. So we might not be outliers here. And then miscellaneous, we saw a decrease of 21 million. That probably have roughly more than half, or about 12 million of that is happening in interest on investment. We over project interest on investment by roughly and then interest on investment, and then tobacco product. I guess people quit smoking or something like that. We saw 1.5 million less in tax, and then all the miscellaneous we see about 4 million less than last year. All the miscellaneous is pretty much, I don't know what in there actually, but it doesn't come in as last year projected. So that with some of the explanation for the 20 million in miscellaneous.
So why, I guess I thought as some of the casinos came online that that category would
The
go up.
casino for the general fund is very small. It's like 2.5% of the total general fund, of the total casino tax. Most of that go to the property tax credit fund,
Oh.
which doesn't sort of hit. So it's very small. I think there's a line on the forecast booklet for casino gambling, it's $1 million or $2 million, something like that.
So the amount that goes to the property tax credit fund doesn't even show up?
No,
Okay.
it's got two different.
Direct, okay, thank you.
Walter, under the individual tax, what percent of that would be equity long-term capital gains tax? Is that a big number? The stock market keeps going up.
Yeah.
People are getting wealthier.
The stock market, the stock market usually reflect in April return and some in October return, right? Because the first 3 months of the fiscal year, which is July, you have withholding is the big factor in that number. So I would say not a whole lot is in that number. The capital gain stuff will be how we characterize it after April surprise. Usually April is where all that money show up, capital gain, and then some of that will show up in October, which I will get to the next slide. There might be some of that in final payment, right? So it doesn't show up in withholding, right? And that number, most of that is withholding.
But when you look at the entire fiscal year,
Yes.
is that taxable amount significant? Now, consider later
It
the
is.
stock market's
It
going to
is.
stop going up.
It is significant.
And if we're addicted to that right now,
It can swing the forecast $100 million each way in April. If you go back to several April ago, not recently because we always been on the high, so there's a baseline on the S&P 500. So if it deviates from that, then we call that an April surprise. Usually in April, if you get a lot of money, that usually comes from capital gain. Capital gain data doesn't show up in the Nebraska tax return, that is built into the federal AGI. So we have to wait for the federal tax to get out to get a sense of how capital gain is doing. But for this particular year, you are correct that capital gain will be a significant factor when we get to April in final payment. People see a lot of other states are starting to see capital gain projections start to increase. And that will have impact on the final payment when the final tax levy will come out. So, but it's significant. It's quite good. So. Here's October. This is our best estimate for now. Sale and use tax, we probably run around 25 million higher than the forecast of 212. Individual income tax, we will run about 33 million higher than the forecast. That is because of refund. If you look down here, the refund, individual refund, we projected 115 million due to the PTET refund. As of today, that's 76 million of that already processed. I believe some of this will get shifted into early November as the time for processing the return will continue in November, but not all will be, right? So the gain will be likely permanent and not shifting from October to November. Then corporation, again, we see a negative 16 million on corporate income tax, corporation income tax receipt. Miscellaneous about 2 million behind. But again, corporation net receipt decrease is the gross receipt that we didn't get because the refund is pretty much right on top. So the payment doesn't come in.
Wafu, on individual income, do you have any sense how much of that was delayed filing or people who had the October 15th deadline on people who didn't file and.
Yeah, I think most of that October number is the final payment. Everything else is due to October final. Because we build in a big chunk of that is final payment. I don't know if I have the table here. So, table. So that's the graphical representation. This is the table itself. So we will build in about 27 million in final payment. We got 33. So, and then withholding, we sort by 11. But final payment is basically what those extension return. And so is the refund, right? The individual income tax refund we build in around 15 million. A lot of that was expected for that extension to claim the PTAC refund. But then it come in at 76 million. That is the question. And here's the revised forecast. If we take both of that into account, so October we looked at about 40 million higher than the forecast. So if you look at the entire first 4 months of the fiscal year, you're looking at negative 15 plus 40, so that's 25 million ahead of the forecast back in April. Right. Here's the revised forecast for net receipt for fiscal year 25-26 with all that information. Sales use tax field forecast is 2.6 billion. The new forecast Moody 2.68 and 2.68. Pretty much it's about 80 million higher than the field forecast. Again, that's because some of that incentive play into background here. Individual income tax doesn't change a whole lot from 3.056 billion to 2.9 and 3 billion. The reduction here, a lot of that, if not all, is due to the projected reduction in the OB3 Act. And then corporate income tax, that's where we took down a lot of, after the data come in for September and then half the month of October, we decided that we're going to cut corporate income tax by roughly 150 million from the current forecast, miscellaneous about 20 million. So,
Is the corporate being affected by, and I like the new term OB3, that's very cool. Is OB3 affecting the corporate already?
It's built into the forecast, yes. But I don't think the actual receipt, like September receipt, I think OB3 is a little early for that impact on receipt. So I think some of the impact might be toward the end of this or early next calendar year when the final return. But it's did build into the forecast. And why did we reduce it much more? Because we have faith in December. Hopefully December, when the next corporate profit receipt come in for estimate payment, we might see a jump in that. If not, then you see a different number in February. That answer your question?
Yep.
So 26, 27, same thing, sales use tax, field forecast about 2.7372. New forecast, Moody 2.526, so that's roughly about 200 million reduction. Again, some of the softness in sales tax is there, and another part is the incentive refund we expected. At least right now, we put it in the forecast for 26, 27. If the timeline change, we will reflect that when we know more. But right now, that's where it's sitting. Individual income tax about 3 billion, 3.1. New forecast is pretty much stay the same. It doesn't deviate a whole lot. 30, 40 million. Corporate income tax, we reduce it by roughly 100 million here, and then 50 million using S&P data. Miscellaneous reduction of 30, roughly about 30 million. A lot of that have to do with interest on investment.
We're ahead right now on sales and use tax, right?
Yes.
So we're looking for a substantial slowdown in sales and use tax.
Some slowdown in sales and use tax, plus the refund that we expected to pay out for the increase this year. So you get a lot of money this year. I think this happened 4 or 5 years ago, one of those big refunds.
So basically, the incentives giveth in 25, 26, and then there
Yes.
taketh away in
That's
26,
what we,
27.
that's what we build in the forecast now. And again, when are these people gonna get a refund, to submit their claim? We have no idea. They don't give us a heads up on that, then it is what it is, so.
But you believe, just looking further out, if they don't claim it in 26, 27, they'll claim it in 27, 28, or some point further?
Yes. So total revised net receipt, current forecast about 7.7, for 25, 26, which is the blue wall here, 7.07 billion. Forecast for 6.9, with a reduction of 160 million based on S&P, 148 million based on Moody. And again, most of that reduction comes from OP3. Current forecast for 26, 27 of 7.04 billion. S&P call for a reduction of 285 and Moody a reduction of 364. So if you look at the two, the sum of the two for the current biennium, based on S&P data, that's about 400 million reduction compared to the current forecast, and then about 5 million compared to the Moody forecast for the 2 years combined. And the next few slides is just repeated information plus some of the historical data here. So I will spend like 2 minutes on this. This is net sales use tax. You can see the increase here. It's kind of flat out for the last 2 fiscal years, and this is because I think there's a real reduction in spending on taxable goods. And then it's the jump due to some sensitivity and then decline for the 2 forecast year. Individual income tax, the high ball here, the pandemic, right after the pandemic with a lot of federal dollar. The tax rate kicked in for that 3 years. This 2 years, 22, 23, 24, 24, 25, you see the reduction here that we got a P10. Right, so you get a P10 and then we expect it to stabilize and go back up. If you look at this 2 bar right now, when I flip the screen, you see the refund increase significantly the same, basically the same thing. So the refund driving down the net, the P10. And then refund for the next couple of year forecast, expect to stabilize with the P10 assumption. It should stabilize. We see it coming as stabilizing data points. Withholding go up, and then this is 23, 24, that's when the tax cuts start to happen. So you see a flat here and then kind of a little bit decline, but not significant. That's due to the tax cut schedule. This is final payment. This 2 years, there's a lot of capital gain in there, right? 21, 22, that's capital gain in there. Then you get to final payment, that's the PTAC problem. Some of the PTAC stay there, and then we expect to stabilize. And estimate payment, we expect it to stay flat out here just because we expect the PTAC to stabilize and everything will go on. We assume the PTAC is here to stay. If PTAC maybe a couple of years from now, if nobody taking the PTAC anymore, then you will see this go back up. But right now, we assume it's stabilizing.
In one of the packets that we were given, you mentioned that a couple states had indicated that
Corporate?
there might, maybe it's corporate, not everyone's going to file for the PTEP, and that some of the refunds will never be given.
That is correct.
And everything we do here, you're going to say is baked into the forecast. I understand that, but you have any idea, would that be a material number?
We
for the
still
state of
believe
Nebraska?
it's, I think it's about 5 to 10%. Some state not seeing the refund coming back out. And if you look at that table in the book, what page is it now? But there's a PTET table in there for tax year 23, and before that, the amount claimed is roughly about 5 or 10% lower than how much we receive in PTET payment. And there will be some taxpayers that will never file for a refund. They're either out of state, too small, so that's that. Rhode Island specifically say they're about 10% ahead. Some of the states say 5-10%. So we see that, and
Did you factor in that in your income? Or did you do
for
that?
2023, we did reduce the refund. If you look at the forecast, we reduced the refund for this current fiscal year, even compared to the forecast. So actually, we assumed that prior to the last forecast, but then we have to relax that. There's some data come in, and it doesn't. PTET data is very messy, right? So every time when we do this forecast, the data get recalibrated, and then so, but it's been, we account for roughly some percentage. And here's that corporate income tax, that's basically the 2 PTET year. Then we expect to stabilize again and hopefully drop. The thing about corporate is you look at the more of a timeline, if you go back a little further, when it dropped like straight down. It's very fast dropping. It's not like the other tax category that slowly dropping. Miscellaneous something there. So this is the same slide that I showed before, just to remind, refresh memory about that. So the 2-year revised forecast based on S&P data is about 4 million reduction and 5 million reduction based on Moody data. And that's all I have.
Dave, would you like to take it from here?
I wasn't sure what this is going to feel like, is either Yogi Berra or Rip Van Winkle. I think it's a little more like Rip Van Winkle, a lot has changed since I left. So, here we go. I really like the graphical presentation. I wish I had done that. This is last year, fiscal year to date by month. We ended the fiscal year 86 million below forecast. Hopefully well with the services. This is kind of the baseline S&P. Compared to April, it's really not, I think most everything that was in April is kind of got baked into October. A little less uncertainty perhaps. In general, some variables are slightly higher than April, generally more favorable. Moody's does have a higher prime interest rate. Kind of wondering if they're thinking about the possibility of a recession or some slow growth in there, kind of buried in there. They don't seem to say it out loud, but
They both have the stock market dropping next year. Is there something that they know that we don't know, or, because I'd like to invest on that.
well, they're
Because usually when the interest rates go down,
mean, actually.
Yeah,
but usually when the interest rates go down, then
market goes up.
So this is a chart that when that Philadelphia Federal Reserve started producing this chart in 2005. I really wish we had it in 2001 and 2, because what it doesn't really show it as much here on this one, but Nebraska had peaked about the time the U.S. economy had hit the trough. So the forecast services were predicting growth, where tax receipts were going down. And it remained that way for a couple of 3, really had a couple of years. So this one thing about this chart gives you kind of a long run idea where each state's GDP is headed, and the U.S., and we seem to be on the same trajectory there, so we're fairly confident that the U.S. driver variables not causing any problems with the forecast. One thing that, since they produce that same index for all 50 states, if you produce a diffusion index, it gives you an idea of growth. Once you get below positive 20, I think almost every recession but one was preceded by that decline in monthly average on that diffusion index, and we have not hit it and bouncing around, so I think maybe a little slower, but it seems to fit with the idea that not a lot has changed since April. To date, hopefully we have pretty well. We're about 15 million below. I think near as we can tell, we'll probably make up that difference in October and be slightly ahead. So this is the first 3 months of the year, the actuals versus the forecast for the first quarter. Sales and uses ahead by nearly 11%. Individual income taxes pretty close. Corporate income taxes well below, as well as miscellaneous tax, but total net receipts are less than 1% behind, and I think we'll be over there. So in our revised forecast, we think that kind of writing off any changes to the U.S. economy driving this forecast, and we're kind of saying it's really based on 4 things. There's the session changes from 2005 session, the passage of the OB3 Act, some new data we got from the Department of Revenue and pass-through entities, and then an unusually large sales and use tax payment. So this is what the board's April forecast looks like if you make the federal and state legislative adjustments. It comes up slightly. There's 204 million, 205 million from the state adjustment for this year, but I think nearly half of that's going to go away because of the one big beautiful bill act. Same for next year, there'll still be about $8 million to the positive from based on the last board forecast. For 2005, this is our forecast. We're looking at $1.8 billion, 59 for this year. For S&P, $1 billion, slightly less than $1 billion for Moody's. That's $108 million difference from that adjusted board forecast for S&P and 162 down from Moody's. For the next year, we're looking at a total net revenue of $640 million, $650 for S&P, and a little less, 6628 for Moody's, and that's 183 million down from that adjusted board forecast from April, and 305 for Moody's. We looked at some data that the Department of Revenue gave us for pass-through entity and ordered it a little bit differently. They were running it by month. And so we were taken a close look at what we have. I think we agree generally that the baseline for this is going to be about $350 million a year, and as it gets more regularized, and it'll be reflected in lower estimated payments. So the shift shouldn't be quite as big as it's causing, but we kind of think that since most of this payment comes in December, or has in the past, that we'll probably see a pretty good uptick in December potentially. So that would run about, I think we expect about 500 million more than I think in the revenue forecast for PTED. On the gross side, after refunds, it pretty well nets out, so I think we're not a huge difference there. And probably for 27, I think we're looking at about $400 million difference, probably a little $400 million in the entity tax, so a little bit higher than what revenue's got. Like I say, we think the base makes sense, but we're thinking it'll take a couple more years to get there. Well, and I have a real advantage here of not knowing anything, so I can talk about it. Where I don't get any, fiscal office doesn't get any individual tax information from the Department of Revenue, so all we can do is surmise what we see in the accounting statistics that we get from DAS and from public reports from various places. So what I did was went through the state accounting has a line for sales tax refunds broken out by program. So that's for, it'll be 775 Nebraska Advantage and that and the Imagine Act. And you can see there was a big spike back there in 2022, kind of went up to $100 million 1 month. So that's kind of the past history of the refunds. But if you look at the sales and use tax, well, in this case, we're just looking at use tax receipts coming in. And that use tax is generally what businesses pay when the taxes are charged by the seller. And it's due when the item's put into service. So if you have a big operation, some new plant or equipment, you may not actually pay the use tax until you're closer to being operational, not while you're building it. Sales tax would generally come in with building materials and other incidentals. So this doesn't include all of the tax. It might be owed for a big project, but the thing that's a little bit concerning maybe is this spike was actually that on the refund side. So this one is more than twice the use tax receipts coming in. If you build that out at try to estimate the kind of investment that would require for the last, since February, we've had almost $3.5 billion of investment implied by the use tax increase. Where that is, I don't know either. I've got some assumptions, having been at DVD, worked with business recruiters. They tell me there's a data center that was going to be much larger than what the Facebook one was built out a few years ago. And the same company was saying yesterday in their earnings report that they were looking at $90 billion in investment worldwide. So we may have found $1 billion or $2 billion of that here. So given the way the program works, if I don't even know if the company is qualified yet for the refunds, they've started paying the tax, clearly. I assume that they will qualify at some point. They have to go through an audit process, and it'll take several months to a year. So I would really suspect that any refunds from this are not going to occur this fiscal year. It'll be in this fiscal year. And so, kind of to recap, here's our net sales and use forecast for.
Dave, what month was that? What month was that in?
The big spike was in July.
Of this year?
Yeah. Since February, there's, the peak was just under $70 million. And since February, there's been an increase in that use tax of about $180 million for those 3 months. Whereas the average before that's been about $2 million a month. So it's a pretty, there's some significantly large projects going on. So these are recap our forecasts. The main driver on those is legislation and a couple of other changes and increasing sales tax. So hopefully not knowing anything will answer this question.
With that, so let's just, since the two of us don't know anything and and he's on his own over there. Would that tax apply to purchasing chips as opposed to building a building? Or both?
Typically, it would be for probably hardware that's going into the building and the building itself. You get into some options on how to pay the tax that I never understood those that are really quite keep straight. But I would expect a lot of that tax goes through the sales tax, but it does get washed out when who shows the taxes. So it's increase, it does sort of wash out. So, there is a big increase, but it's probably somewhat hidden and it's hiding some other things potentially. One thing that I did find kind of interesting, chose not to include, was this is kind of an ugly chart, but it's from the Treasury monthly statement for U.S. gross corporate income tax or corporate tax, and the bottom line and graph on the left is Nebraska's corporate income tax gross. So it makes sense that they kind of follow each other. Right at the end here is the effective PTAT. So, it was growing, but not as fast as ours were growing. But there does seem to be kind of slowing of corporate tax collections, even at the federal level. So that was something I hope to build into some models later.
Dave, if I can build on Steve's question, talk about a data center, maybe using NVIDIA chips, AI related. Has Moody's or S&P Global provided any insight on a national basis as to when we can start seeing some significant changes in the labor market, corporate productivity, earnings, when AI, right now we're seeing the investment, the hundreds of billions of dollars being invested in that, maybe go to the trillions before it's over. But we really haven't seen anything, I haven't seen, read anything specifically tangible as to what the benefits, when they start accruing. Now, there's been recently some major layoffs that have been announced by Amazon and some other companies. And from what I'm reading, the unemployment rate of people coming out of high school and college is starting to spike compared to the average of all ages. So we're seeing some indirect things that are happening, but it's just the beginning. So has either of those two entities that we rely upon provided any insight as to when we might start seeing some things that might affect revenue for the state?
Not that I know of right now, but I think generally they build those into what they call, so they have an investment on the, I don't know if they fit it through what they call productivity increase in their modeling, but there's, to answer the question, I have not seen a specific report on the impact of AI on on employment and things like that, but you might start seeing that now, right? As you mentioned, there's some layoff. Those, especially on Amazon front, most of that is due to AI replacement. So there's a lot of investment right now. The profit is there, so it should be like the .com before. There's actually a company making real money on this field right now. They have a business model, they have a structure, but I haven't seen any direct on that.
I haven't either. There seems to be a little discussion about maybe some increasing productivity kind of base, but not attributed to anything particular.
In a shrinking labor market, there's a lot of sad stories that go with that from a personal perspective, but in terms of if you don't have as many people working, we're not collecting as much in revenue for the state, unless it's offset by the people who are losing jobs getting different types of jobs, or corporations becoming more profitable and paying more taxes. The net result, at least in the short term, would be, everything else being equal, less revenue coming into the state.
I think in the short run, the labor, you might see increased investment, but the profit for a company in terms of tax realization is probably way out there, right? Because the investment is so big that they probably will not have any taxable profit to drive off this massive investment. But I heard some people talking about, like in the long run, the economy, the market evolve. In the long run, the job that gets replaced by AI, we'll find another job to support some of the AI stuff. So it might be require some training, background, things like that, but I don't think the job will be completely gone. At least that's what I think.
I've got a question for both of you. Just getting into the 25-26 forecast. If you look at 18 and 19 are the lines on this that I'm actually referring to. If we look at the average between LFO and NDR, between the two models from the two different departments, there's a pretty significant divergence. I mean, we expect 40, 50 million, but there's in excess of 100 million difference between what LFO ran, or average of its two models, looking at a $238 million reduction versus NDR having a 129 and change million reduction. Any idea or any insight into why we're seeing that divergence between the two offices, and why one is more extreme, or why there's a $100 million separation between the two?
Some of that is, in our Moody's model, the interest on investments is low compared to everything else. It doesn't seem like it should be that way with assuming somewhat higher interest rates, so they go back and dig through the model, but I think that's a piece of it. The other piece of it is just, I think we're at least a good year out on that from PTEC regularizing itself.
Okay.
I think most of the difference, you look at that same two line 1819, different come from sales tax. We sold on 80 million higher, they sold 21 million higher. And if you look at detail, I think some of that has to be a refund. On individual income tax, like I said, they are 142 million lower, I sold 57 million. Can I reduce refund based on the new assumption that I put in for the PTEC, and the given refund for October, which I want to out until I put the final number down. I reduced it a little bit more when I saw refund tend not to get to 150 million as we projected, so I lowered that too. Stuff somewhat different coming there, just different perspectives on where things go.
Yeah, so just to summarize, so that I don't want to oversimplify or put words in your mouth, but basically it's a fundamental issue in how the two offices interpreted timing of some of these refunds and playing out, as opposed to any difference in structural assumptions or economic assumptions.
I don't know what that sum is, so I can't really tell you that.
I think one thing, you were a little lower, I think, on the forecast for the sales tax coming in. At the time we made the forecast, than maybe now.
Okay, so you don't see that really that separation is probably as broad, based on what you know today, as maybe it would appear initially on the sheet?
Yeah.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
I have one last question. Does anyone else have any other questions? S&P Global and Moody's give us a baseline in the packet. This is on a national basis. And then they give pessimistic and optimistic. For example, S&P Global has a baseline 50%, pessimistic 20%, optimistic 30%. Which I assume S&P said if they're really what they're saying is that, and this isn't anything new, this is just something I'm thinking about right now, but that there's more upside to, on a national basis, being above baseline than below baseline. Whereas the other one, U.S. macro forecast snapshot, shows baseline 50 and pessimistic 35%, optimistic 15. So should I assume in that case that one assumes that there was a surprise that on a national basis, the likelihood it would be more pessimistic than optimistic? Is that how? And do they do this for the state level in Nebraska, or is this just a national basis?
I do believe they only do this for the national economy. Moody, they have a risk charge. They're very, they have all kind of events that can happen that will cause the economy to go into recession. I think that's where they come up with this percentage. But at the end of the day, the baseline is the most likely case that will happen. Do I see more upside in the short term? It's hard to say.
So that's where I'm getting to. The baseline is a baseline. They're saying that this is the most likely scenario. And when you break it down into your forecast, you've got a state baseline now. This is the most likely forecast. But my suspicion is that reality is never going to ideally be the forecast. It's an educated guess. Okay. So when I look at this, I ask myself the question, well, if there's a surprise, is it more likely to be a negative surprise or a positive surprise? And I've never asked this question in this setting before. whether you, both of you feel it's even in your department's responsibilities to give an opinion, that if there was a surprise, what you think the surprise would be, whether it be positive or negative. What you give us are numbers, and then we basically collectively make a decision as to where we think it's headed. Would either of your departments feel comfortable at the next meeting and addressing this, instead of just giving us the numbers, say, if there is a surprise, we think it's more likely to be upside versus downside or vice versa?
I mean, I think I can tell you that if I am to make this forecast this year, I think this year you might see the chance of it being more upside is there, given the sales tax number. Because sometimes we don't know when some of this sending activity keep coming in and when it's stopping, right? So what I build into the forecast is a few months of this going to happen again, right? It might be off, right? We don't know that, but I'm making my best educated guess. But when I do that, I tend to be on the conservative side. So if for this particular year, I think this can be the likelihood of being more optimistic than the number is there. But next fiscal year is probably 50-50. See, next year the base case is pretty stable.
Looking at it from a long time ago and what the value of the board is, we try to give our best down the middle of the baseline forecast of what's going to happen. Quite a few years ago, I looked at the performance of the boards first, the forecast they make in February or April, adjusted for legislation, and then compare that to the actuals. And what we found on that is the way that it works, the board almost always did better than the agencies. And part of that was, and the things that were really, where it was really stark, the differences were those things that are just really, really hard to forecast, like corporate income tax. The board was always much better than any of the forecasts, built models that were put together. In fact, the only one that kind of surprised me that Department of Revenue was better at was sales tax. And the reason for that was they had a lot better idea of what refunds were coming out. And so that was the only short run case where the agencies actually did better than what the consensus of the board was. And so I can come up with all kinds of nightmares or other things that could happen. But I think one of the values of this is the experience that the board brings to the table.
It's blending all of the work of your staff and putting together projections with firsthand knowledge of what's happening in the communities. It's a good team. Any other questions? If not, thank you very much, and thank you to your staffs as well for all the work that they put into the information that you shared with us. Is that part of our meeting where we go around the table and ask our board members to talk about what's happening in their communities? John, if we can start with you. You're in.
Very strange and interesting world right now, and I think we've said that for the last couple of years. It's just a lot of things going on. I said certainly uncertain times, and I think that's probably pretty close. A little bit what I've talked to with some of the people I've worked with in the past and some of the stuff I've read. In construction, national report dated October 1st, and construction job openings hit a near 10-year low. That's all type of constructions. It stated that BLS counted 188,000 open jobs on the last day of the month, which is a drop of about 38%, both month to month, year to year. In August, 2.2 of all construction jobs went unfilled. So, go from there, it's the lowest point in 10 years, and major 3.5% drop from the prior month. We're certainly seeing a little bit of unemployment in Omaha and Lincoln, kind of like between jobs, waiting for things to start. I know the data center here in Lincoln finished up the first building, about to go to the second building. So I think that's probably a lot of that type of stuff. Seems like as we go along, there's a lot of reports of white collar jobs being eliminated across the country, as you were mentioning. Bright side, most everything I've read and most everybody I talked to, construction pipeline can see some new jobs breaking late 26 and early 27, which is pretty much what we were talking about. Compared to August of 24, overall planning's jumped up about 50%. So there's a lot of work. If you exclude data centers, commercial planning would be up about 38%. Somewhat tracks with the larger contractors I've talked to. They're holding their own right now, but see a brighter future as they price out future work, not contracting it, just pricing it out for the customers, trying to give them the baseline. Biggest amount of work, of course, is data centers and medical type facilities, and there's certainly in Omaha, there's some big stuff coming down the line. An architect that I talked to, his firm belongs to a large national peer group, reports the same thing on a national level. Jobs in the pipeline, not started, looking for a slow 2026, but better 2027. Apparently residential, soft but steady. Contractor I talked to says he's gonna have a good year. Apparently some of his builders though are slowing down a little on single family homes. Builders feel that year-over-year building permits are gonna be mostly steady or even up a little bit in the future, but one guy reported that a little deceiving on permits due to very active multifamily rental market. Contractor that's doing some of the residential works, he had switched to a copper-clad aluminum wire products for home because of the price of copper going up so high. And lately, and I'm assuming it's because of the issue of a large aluminum plant going down back east, prices have spiked there by a large amount. He'll probably go back to copper in the future. Scrap copper's hit $4 a pound. That's huge. I mean, that's big money, and no wonder they're breaking into places and stealing it, to be honest with you. Copper, the mineral, hit an all-time high yesterday. How it relates to copper wire, I'm not 100% sure. All the contractors I talked to said that they have no trouble lately getting types of construction materials, just the prices are spiking. Lumber products are seemingly, to a layman like me, kind of crazy. They hit a 3-year high at the beginning of August, and futures have since dropped to 24%. I assume the tariffs are just driving them crazy. Developer said greenfield development is slower than previous years for 3 primary reasons. Land price is still high. Cost of infrastructure is very high. Special assessments for infrastructure improvements have risen about 70% in the last 3 or 4 years. And I'm not an expert on sewer availability, but apparently that's a big deal. Just the way they can tap into it, that type of stuff. Sarpy County especially, they're going to redo some stuff out there, and apparently will open up a bunch of land. But the developers, they say, are pretty cautious about the future. We can go on longer about energy needs as it relates to electrical power. Data centers are certainly the main cause. Current administration has shut down some clean energy projects, but we still have OPPD and LES have announced generation increases that will be coming forward. OPPD signed contracts for 900 megawatts, which is 4 new turbines in Cass and Sarpy. LES is looking at 2 new gas. I don't know that it's signed yet, but looks like they're going to do that. Immigration is a hot topic and causing some stress. Immigrants, legal or not, are somewhat afraid to be seen out in the world. There was a survey by Nebraska construction firms, and they reported that nearly half are either directly or indirectly through subcontractors impacted as workers are fearful to go to work due to immigration enforcement. So overall, construction's in an okay phase. There's hope for the future. A lot of people are kind of on edge, and they're just not sure what the future holds, which I think is probably what everybody thinks. So that's it.
Thanks, Jim. Matt?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate one of the slides that Dr. Dearmont had of really all the changes we're talking about here in the forecast is policy, not the economy in Nebraska. If anything, as we've heard, because of the sales tax receipts, investments happening. So I think there's good news. And during my time in the governor's office, I sat in plenty of these meetings with Oahu getting prepped for this, and there was always the guessing game as to when these sales tax receipts or refunds are going to hit. And most of the time we guessed high, and they either didn't come during that period or they were much lower. So I'm always a little bit more cautious as to how much or when I'm baking those in and to what level. And I'd also say on the income tax side with the one big beautiful bill changes, I'm not sure the forecasts always bake in the economic impacts of the benefits that are going to come to those, but fully bakes in the changes to the tax code. And so there never gets that kind of gap in there and the benefits that come with it. So.
Thank you, John.
I tend to agree a lot with Matt. I think both economically and as I look at the forecast, there's just a lot of noise. Certainly being in the cattle industry over the last couple of weeks, we found what impact noise can have on future markets and make things on paper look very skittish, yet the calves that I unloaded at the sale barn brought the highest I've ever brought in my 51 years of existence. So lots of noise out there in the background. I think depending on who you're listening to, OB3 was either the best thing to ever happen or it was the worst thing that ever happened, and the truth is somewhere in the middle. And again, as I look at this forecast, the numbers at first when I opened my packet were a little jarring from what I was expecting, but then when you cut through the noise with the sales tax issues and the refund timing, the structural changes as a result of the federal changes in tax policy with OB3, everybody's made a lot of discussions about tariffs, and I think we saw in some of the data some of the worst expectations about how tariffs may manifest have not come to fruition. Now, whether that's just a delayed issue or whether we're in a different economic set of fundamentals compared to the last time we saw widespread national tariffs, that's all just noise at this point. So I think when you cut through the noise, things are actually, from my perspective, really stable and quite optimistic for the state as a whole. We seem to be tracking well with the country, and a lot of the extreme concerns on both sides seem to not bear out. So cut through the noise. People back home are certainly steady as she goes. They're making investments. They're making their plans for next year's crops, next year's calf cycle, next year's businesses, and continuing to do what we do and try to ignore some of the outside voices that may capture headlines and may capture views, but don't necessarily reflect what's happening in people's everyday lives.
Thank you. What I'd like to do is to read you Tom Henning's report. I mentioned earlier that he was not able to be here today. So just give me a moment and I'll begin. Activity in the Kearney community remains fairly brisk. A lot of building activity is happening in the Kearney area and in the bedroom communities outside of the city. Affordable housing is still an area issue. Enrollment is down at UNK, approximately 3%, with the number of international students being down significantly. Supply chain students and healthcare students are on the increase and will fill the enrollment gap for the most part in the near future. UNK will be training physicians at the end of this next year, which will also help close the gap on enrollment and increase the supply of primary care physicians in the outstate. There are many small businesses that have opened in our area in the past year. Most people would agree that there has been a slump in the markets, but the bottom line is that we dodged a recession. The good weather for the past few months has helped with business conditions. Food inflation is having an impact on the spending habits for the consumer that eats away from home. Most certainly it has an impact on those who buy their groceries at the local supermarkets. Food inflation in both the food service segment and the away from home market increased the first 7 months of this year, and now for the past few months it is tracking down. The first part of the year it was tracking at just 3.95%. In the last couple of months it's down to approximately 3%. People are trading down when it comes to away from home purchases. A survey that was done by one of the industry association found that kids' meals are the choice of 50% of the patrons that frequent these restaurants. Obviously, the patrons are attracted by the price points, and that has become popular with older people and larger families. The other issue that makes kids' meals attractive are the smaller portions. We have found more stability in the labor markets, both with the supply of labor and the cost associated with it. And last, the general conclusion by the industry is that tariffs have not impacted food inflation.
You bet. Thank you. So I wanted to speak with someone at our organization that's really tied in with our ag community. This is typically kind of a time of uncertainty for Western Nebraska in terms of how harvest is going to go. I drove down here yesterday. There's harvesting everywhere, which is great. But we do have some concerns with row crop farmers coming into renewal season. It's going to be a good harvest. It's just the prices aren't quite there, which is unfortunate, and the expenses that they have along the way have really, really make a break even kind of best case scenario. That's the same when you look at beans or beets. Livestock continuing to do well. Obviously, there's some recent announcements or noise about that causes a few challenges with that. But livestock guys are definitely doing okay. That has all of those things and those uncertainties have led to, I think, overall the business being a little slow, people pulling back a bit. And we see some projects that we thought were going to happen that have been delayed. Some of that's due to cost, some of that's due to just labor availability and or the cost of that labor. So I'd actually have comments very similar to John Bourne when you were mentioning some of those construction related comments. We'd see that in a number of communities in western Nebraska related to different projects. So just a lot of uncertainty right now, and I would note that we typically feel this way, and then it always turns out a little better than we thought it would. So there's also some cautious optimism, but we tend to be a bit conservative out there.
Thank you. Steve?
So I think, Mr. Chair, I think I can answer part of your query about AI and how it's going to affect. First of all, nobody knows how it's going to affect anything, but the good news for the state of Nebraska is we're mostly data centers. Amazon and those guys are firing programmers. I wish we had programmers to fire because they're high-paying jobs, but we don't, and so we're kind of in a situation where the data center build-out has been good for us. It's just as a matter of interest. I saw a chart the other day that shows that the Omaha, Lincoln, Council Bluffs Metroplex, however you want to describe that, is the 7th largest data center in the United States, data center concentration in the United States, and it's significant. It's a pretty significant concentration, and as that build out goes out, it does pay some nice construction jobs, and it will leave behind some high paying, maybe 80 people at a data center kind of employees. So that's good for the state. The other thing, ever the optimist, I'm just going to say, and I know I'm out there on an island on this one, but as I look at interest rates, I kind of think we already know that in May there's going to be a new chair of the Federal Reserve, and that guy is going to, by definition, going to be somebody who agrees with the president, because the president's appointing him, and the president has already signaled that he wants lower interest rates. So I'm thinking that at least on the short end of the curve, it's going to be there's going to be lower interest rates in the next year. And it's as predictable as it's ever been, at least in my book, that interest rates are going to go down. Maybe not precipitously over the next 6 months, but then I think there will be a tendency to be dovish in terms of federal monetary policy over the next year plus, and eventually that hits the long term on the long side of the interest rate curve, and so I suspect that will be a boon to the economy. That's why I question Moody and S&P's pessimism about next year's stock market, and to the point that would affect our capital gains tax. I think that not this year, but the following year may have some good side for us in terms of what happens here. So I apologize for being so optimistic, but that's what I'm seeing.
The Fed chair has one vote. From your knowledge base, how successful is the Fed chair in strong-arming other voting members pretty strong?
It depends on the Fed chair, obviously, but I defer to my friend down there who actually advised the Fed board, but usually the Fed chair has been good, and it will be, he's already got 2 votes on there. We were talking on the way down, our friend Jeff Schmidt, who's the president of the Kansas City Fed, there was breaking news this morning that he had a statement out as to why he didn't think inflation was coming down, and I was like, Jeff, really? You're not helping the situation here, but it's pretty, presumably, remember, he gets to appoint more people as time goes along here too, so we'll see.
Thank you.
Should we read anything into our chair asking about the Fed chair?
If he's not here next time, we'll know. Right?
One of the nice things about going close to last is, I agree, that's easy. I do want to say thank you to both departments. To John's point about the noise, sometimes the more you read, the more you get the extremes, and it's hard to really parse out what the facts are. What your department's put together for us is outstanding and starting to narrow that noise a little bit. Anecdotally, I think we see some signs that there is some caution warranted. I'm by nature a little more pessimistic. We are seeing some signs in the construction industry where especially subs are coming in really low on some of our bids, that they're really looking for work. We're seeing in the employment market, setting aside teachers for a minute because that's specialized, but in the hourly markets where we compete, we're seeing the quantity and quality of candidates in our applicant pool increasing, which tracks with what we're seeing here in the reports of slowdown in the labor market. So while good for us, might be an indicator of some potential problems, but overall, I think the truth still lays somewhere in between, as was said earlier. It's not catastrophic. It's not bright and sunny. It's the data shows that the extreme of the noise is probably inaccurate on both sides.
Thank you, Chad. Leslie?
Yeah, you know, I jumped right into I agree with basically everybody today, and the noise has been a big factor, and I think the noise was a big factor in small business and them just like pausing for a moment. What's going to happen with the tariffs? How's it? And now that nothing really has happened with it, they're really beginning to ramp up capital investment and some of those kinds of things. We're starting to see that in the small business market for sure. And you know, you mentioned it earlier. There's big projects happening in Omaha, and some of them are just, I mean, the med center's just coming out of the hospital, just starting to come out of the ground. Got the big Crossroads development. There's a lot happening that's going to be stimulative. That, you know, makes me feel like, you know, we're Nebraska again. We're steady. We're solid. We're moving forward.
Thank you, Leslie. Any other comments before we turn our attention to the task at hand, and that's to do the forecast?
Do you have comments, Rich?
Nope, actually mine was kind of baked in with Tom's.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I had comments, but they weren't any different than what he had. So if you could take out your yellow forecast sheet, make certain your name is on it. We'll start with sales and use music tax.
My spreadsheet lied to me.
Okay, the average is 2,666,000. Low is 2,650,000, and the high is 2,690,000.
Anyone like to jump in with a motion?
I move, Mr. Chair, I move 2,665,000.
Second.
We have a motion and second for 2,665,000. Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Miltenberger,
No.
Mr. Maiskeier,
Yes.
Mr. Celine,
Yes.
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Bourne,
Yes.
Mr. Karp,
No.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis.
Yes. Motion carries 6-2. For 2.665 million is adopted. We'll now do individual income tax.
Another zero there.
On the table.
What's the average? Okay, what is coming out?
The high is 3,005,000,000. The low is 2,950,000, and the average is 2,979,000.
Mr. Chairman, I move 3 billion.
Second.
We have a motion and second for 3 billion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Celine,
Yes.
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Bourne,
Yes.
Mr. Karp,
No.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis,
Yes?
Mr. Miltenberger,
Yes.
Mr. Maiskeier.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-1 for 3 billion. Just for a second. Okay, we'll now do corporation income tax as well as miscellaneous taxes.
I really can't do enough. Just go on. It's hard. I know, certain places. Yeah. Yeah.
The high is 805,000,000, the low is $7,084 million.
Mr. Chair, I move $785 million.
Second.
We have a motion second for 785 million. Roll call, please.
Miss-
Any discussion first? Roll call.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Karp?
Yes.
Mr. Keen?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes,
Mr. Miltenberger?
Yes.
Mr. Meiskeier?
Yes.
Mr. Celine?
Yes.
it's unanimous. Approved for 785 million.
The high is 507 million, the low is 490, and the average is 500.
Mr. Chair, I move 500 million.
Second.
We have a motion second for 500 million. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Karp?
Yes.
Mr. Keen?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes,
Mr. Miltenberger?
Yes.
Mr. Meiskeier?
Yes.
Mr. Celine?
Yes.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
motion adopted. 500 million.
Brings the total to $6,950 million.
A motion to approve that?
Mr. Chair, I move we adopt general fund 25-26 at $6,950 million.
Second.
We have a motion and second for 6,950 million. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call.
Mr. Karp?
Yes.
Mr. Keen?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes,
Mr. Miltenberger?
Yes.
Mr. Meiskeier?
Yes.
Mr. Celine?
Yes.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Bourne?
Yes.
yes. Motion adopted. Now we'll focus on fiscal year 26 to 27. We'll start with sales and use tax.
The high is $2,675,000, the low is $2,535,000, and the average is $2,592,000.
What's the average without the $2,675,000?
Not the 2,675.
Mr. Chair, I'll move 2,600,000,000.
Second.
We have a motion and second for 2,600,000,000. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Keen?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes,
Mr. Miltenberger?
Yes.
Mr. Meiskeier?
Yes.
Mr. Celine?
Yes.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Karp?
Yes.
motion carries. 2,600,000,000. Now do the individual income tax.
Okay, the high is 3,120,000,000. The low is 3 billion. And the average is 3,056,000,000.
Mr. Chair, I move 3,060,000,000.
Second.
We have a motion and second for $3,060,000,000. Roll call, please.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Miltenberger?
Yes.
Mr. Meiskeier?
Yes.
Mr. Celine?
Yes.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Karp?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Motion carries, $3,060,000,000. We'll now do corporate income tax and miscellaneous taxes.
The high is 800,000,000. The low is 760,000,000, and the average is 778.
Mr. Chairman, I move 780 million.
I'll second.
We have a motion and second for $780 million. Roll call, please.
Mr. Miltenberger?
Yes.
Mr. Meiskeier?
Yes.
Mr. Celine?
Yes.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Karp?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes. Motion carries.
Okay, the high is 380,000,000. The low is 355,000,000. The average is 363 million.
Mr. Chairman, I move 360 million.
Second.
We have a motion and second for $360 million. Roll call, please.
Mr. Meiskeier?
Yes.
Mr. Celine?
Yes.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Carp?
Yes.
Mr. Keen?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes?
Mr. Miltenberger?
Yes.
Motion carries, 360 million.
Brings the total to 6,800,000,000.
Repeat that, please.
6,800,000,000.
Wow.
Mr. Chairman, I move we adopt for fiscal year 26-25 the general fund revenue forecast at $6,800,000,000.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Celine?
Yes.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Carp?
Yes.
Mr. Keen?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Miltenberger?
Yes.
Mr. Weisgeier?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, board members. It's that time of the meeting to select our next meeting date. What, any dates that,
If mornings work, it would be better during the session, getting here in rooms. It's difficult.
this is the February meeting?
February 27th, that's a Friday.
Okay. So the preferred date by the state would be Friday the 27th in the morning, I assume 10 a.m. So the question for this group is whether or not your schedule would permit you to attend.
Make that work.
What time did you say?
Okay,
Well, I'm suggesting 10. It seemed to work out here today.
that means you gotta come in.
I just have something that evening, so I'd have to leave like at noon,
Okay,
which should be fine, but,
that should be fine.
yeah.
And if it isn't, we'll certainly excuse you. at that
Yeah,
point.
okay, perfect.
Anybody else have any issues? If not, we have a motion to set our next meeting date for Friday, February 27th at 10 a.m.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second, no discussion. Let's do a roll call.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Carp?
Yes.
Mr. Keen?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Miltenberger?
Yes.
Mr. Weisgeier?
Yes.
Mr. Celine?
Yes.
Motion carries, and I'll let Tom Henning know of the date, so we can all track as well. This is the time of the meeting that we open it up for any public comment. Anyone have anything they'd like to bring before the board? If not, I'd ask for a motion and second to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second, roll call, please.
Mr. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Carp?
Yes.
Mr. Keen?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Miltenberger?
Yes.
Mr. Weisgeier?
Yes.
Mr. Celine?
Yes.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank all of you for all the work you've done. And for those traveling, travel safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So now you gotta drive.